Hi, my name is Caroline Behringer, and I'm a Senior Lead Instructor for the Nutritional Therapy Association. We're going to get into now the practical part of culinary wellness, and we're going to start with liver pate. Now, there's a term to describe organ meats and other parts, unusable parts of the animal, and that's offal, O-F-F-A-L. We're going to have fun with that word later. So for those who don't like the taste of liver, there are sneaky ways to get it into their food where they really don't know they're eating it. So you could make a meatloaf, we call it an organ loaf, and you can add in a little liver, a little heart, whatever, or you can put it in meatballs, or you can blend it into a soup, and they may not know it's there if you start with a little bit first, let their palate get used to it, and then increase it over time, and they won't even know it's in there, and then you can announce that they've been eating liver, and they're like, really, I have? Oh, that's good, I'll continue to eat liver, and that's your goal. Even with your clients, that's your goal. If you've never had liver, start slow, introduce it, get your palate used to it, and do the same with your family, your friends, and your future clients. It's really important that they eat organ meats because it's chock full of nutrients, vitamin A, B vitamins, glutathione, your master antioxidant in your body, iron, copper. I could go on for days. It's a powerful superfood that we all should be having about once a week in our diet. When you eat liver or another organ or gland, you increase the integrity and function of your own organ or gland. That like is supporting like. That's from Eastern medicine. But I really think it applies to modern day where we have a lot of issues with our air quality, our food, toxins that we're exposed to. We need a healthy liver. So eating liver can help our liver to be healthier. And guess what? If you eat liver once a week, even twice a week, you will notice a general increase in your vitality, in your chi energy of your body. Another benefit to eating liver is that it's really easy to digest. All organ meats are. They're gelatinous meats. Think of muscle meat, has a lot of fiber, a lot of connective tissue. It's hard to break down, but gelatinous meats, organ meats, easy to digest, quick nutrition, and super delicious as well. So the liver is such an important organ. It has hundreds of processes that are going on in the body at all time. It can regenerate itself, and it needs some help sometimes, especially in our modern world with all the toxins that we have in the air and the water and our food. It's working overtime. And there's a misconception about the liver being a detoxification organ. Some people think, ooh, why would I want to eat something that filters toxins out? It's all in the tissues, and that's not how the liver works. In fact, later on in the program, you'll learn all about the anatomy and physiology and the workings of the liver. And you'll see that the liver has all these little ducts, and it's kind of these little channels that run through it. And in these channels is bile. The liver manufactures bile. And it's that river that the liver puts its toxins into. And that river of bile flows out into the gallbladder and then out into the digestive tract to leave your body. That's how it works. So when you're eating liver, you're not eating anything unhealthy, and you're going to remove some of those ducts and those bits and connective tissue bits and make it a delicious pate like we're going to do today. On the other hand, there are animals that do have unhealthy livers. These are the animals that are living in CAFOs, animals that are part of the whole animal agricultural movement. We don't want to be eating those kinds of livers. So sourcing is really, really important. Know your farmer. Find where you can get a good pork liver. Find where you can get good chicken livers locally, and find out what they're feeding these animals. So let's get specific with liver. Let's look at chicken livers, okay? They are really mild compared to beef or pork liver. So it would be wise to start there, either with yourself if you don't eat liver, or when you work with clients who have never eaten liver before either. There's even a liver formula for babies that's a milk replacement, and you can Google that and look at it online. But it can help children who can't tolerate mother's breast milk or the milk of another animal. The liver formula can really save a baby's life in certain instances. And again, I want to emphasize, choose healthy animals who have healthy livers, especially with chicken livers. You want these chickens to be eating worms and grubs and bugs, all kinds of insects, even vegetation. And if they are eating grain, ask your farmer, are they eating grain? Is it non-GMO? That is super important. So let's get making liver pate. We're going to start with the ingredients. I'm going to go through the list really quickly. We have pastured ghee, minced shallots, garlic, thyme, coconut aminos, coconut cream. Now I chose coconut cream because I am dairy intolerant and I make it with this coconut cream and it gets really rich and tasty. And then I also have some bacon crumbles here that we're gonna add in, because if people don't like the taste of liver, adding in bacon crumbles can sort of mask the flavor and also make it delicious, because who doesn't love bacon? I don't know anybody. Then we have some melted ghee here in the jar. I've got it in some hot water so that we can put that over the top of the chicken livers, and it keeps them from oxidizing and turning a funny color, and it keeps it fresher. So we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But I also have soaked the chicken livers in water, just enough water that it came up over the livers, and then I put in 1 whole lemon. So now we have our acid breaking down the protein, making this even more digestible. And I just took that water off, I strained it off, and now we're gonna put the fat in the pan and get cooking. So let's get the fire on. Remember in kitchen basics when we talked about having a pot or a pan that doesn't have a nonstick surface, if you put the fat in there first and you get it nice and heated, and when you add the food, it won't stick. It acts as a barrier between the food and the pot or pan. So we're getting this ghee nice and melted. Takes a moment. All right, I'm gonna add the shallots first. And the ghee's still melting a little bit, but that's okay. So we wanna cook these shallots for about 1 minute. Get them sauteed, get them translucent. They're already starting to sizzle, I can hear it. Oh, this smells so good. All right, we're gonna let those sizzle for a minute. While that's happening, let's look at the livers, because they're gonna go in next. I wanna talk about the connective tissue that I brought up before. I've taken the connective tissue out of most of these livers, but there's one I left, and you can see I'm sort of letting it dangle by the connective tissue here. See it in the middle, right here? We want to cut that away. We don't want those bits, so let's give them a good cut. And remember your knife skills. You want to make sure that your fingers are out of the way. I suggest everybody go take a knife skills class. Can't hurt, makes your kitchen experience very enjoyable, and you can be very impressive too with your knife skills. All right, we've got about 20 more seconds for the shallots. All right, let's add those chicken livers. Now we want to cook these, and you want to keep the heat kind of high. You want to cook these for a couple minutes, spread them out real good on each side. And the reason why you want to do that is you want them to cook kind of through. The way a piece of liver should look on the inside when it's cooked, turn this down a tiny bit, it should look like sort of a halo of brownish gray and then nice and pink in the middle. But if you were to squeeze it or give it a little pressure, it shouldn't bleed any bloody water out, okay? So that's really important with liver. Even if you don't make it into a pate, that's how you're gonna wanna eat whole liver if you cook it. I'm gonna go ahead and flip these to the other side. And also, you don't want to cover liver. You want some of that water that you soaked it in, because I did mention that I soaked it with enough water and lemon earlier, but that's going to be drained off. And there's going to be some water left in the pieces of liver, and you're going to want to let that cook out and evaporate out of the pan. And if there's any pieces that don't look done to you, just flip them over. Give them some time. I have some recovering vegetarians in my practice that had a little bit of difficulty starting when they first started to eat liver. And so they bought it prepared. And I said, you don't have to make it yourself. Buy prepared pate, and that's a little easier for you to get used to, incorporating liver into your diet. And you don't have to work with the raw form of the liver, because that was kind of grossing them out. But they got over that really quickly when they got used to liver, and how they felt when they started eating liver was the big game changer for them. I hope you experienced that too. French culinary recipe for pate would have brandy or cognac, but we're going to use coconut aminos just to keep it a little bit more liver friendly, if you will, because the liver has to process all that alcohol. So let's get that in there, and we've got about 1/3 cup of that. I'm going to let that cook a little bit. So as you can see, there's a little step-by-step process to this, but once you make it once or twice, you're gonna get so used to it. I'm gonna turn the heat off, and I'm gonna add in the coconut cream. And this is super yummy because it adds a richness that even regular cream to me doesn't add, but if you don't like coconut, you can always use raw, delicious, real cream from a cow or goat. That would be ideal. And I'm just gonna let this sit here for a moment and clear my space. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this into a bowl. And then we're gonna take the immersion blender to it and we're gonna make it into pate. And one more thing, before we blend, we're gonna add in a teaspoon of sea salt. You can salt it more afterward if you need to, and we're gonna bring in the immersion blender now, and we're gonna make a puree. What I'm doing is sort of grabbing in some of the pieces of liver that are on the outside, outer areas. And you want to get this nice and pureed. You don't want any chunks in there. All right, so now we have this beautiful puree. That's going to be our pate. We're going to put it into a bowl. Don't want to waste any of this. It's too precious. It's a bowl of gold. We are going to add the melted ghee and the bacon. So what I do is I kind of put the bacon in, and it's about 2 or 3 slices of bacon, by the way, and I stir it in there, get it distributed throughout the pate. Ooh, that smells so good. And then I'm going to pour the ghee over the top so we have a barrier from oxygen. And we just keep pouring and pouring and pouring until we have a layer of fat over the top. We're going to put this in the refrigerator for about 3 or 4 hours. And I think I failed to mention how long I soaked the chicken livers. It was like 3 to 5 hours before I prepared them today. All right. And this is going to go into the fridge. And when it hardens, you'll have this nice layer of ghee, and you'll have the pate underneath, and then you can top it with some fresh thyme. So what does that look like when it's done? Well, I have one to show you right here. It's a smaller bowl. This is our liver pate, and see how I sprinkled some fresh thyme on here? The pate is nice and pink. You notice it's not that deep gray when you overcook the liver, and it's got that layer of ghee on the top for oxidation purposes. As you eat this pate, you may want to melt some more ghee and put it over the part that's left over. So if you scrape a lot of this ghee off, and what are you going to serve this with? You're going to do radish circles and cucumbers, celery, carrots, a good sourdough bread, or even a sourdough cracker if you tolerate grains well. And always add, which makes the flavor pop for me, a little bit of ferment on the top, a little bit of fermented onion or salsa or fermented beets that add that beautiful color, that red color, and beets help to thin bile. So you've got liver support and bile support if you top it with the beets, the fermented beets. You might be wondering how long this will last in the fridge. It will last for 2 to 4 weeks if you keep covering it with fat so it doesn't oxidize and spoil on the top. Also, keep your fridge at 38 degrees. That is when bacteria does not grow. So in general, 38 degrees, if you set your fridge at that temperature, all your food will stay fresher. So I hope you've enjoyed this awful demo, and I encourage you to get organ meats into your diet and your future clients as well. It will increase your health, your vitality, your well-being, and I know your liver will thank you.